I'm going to take my mask off while I speak so y'all can hear me. Good morning. Thank y'all so much for being with us today as we commemorate Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Together, today we gather to raise awareness of this important issue, to take a stand on our shared commitment to serve victims of crime, sexual assault, intimate partner violence, domestic violence. I'm honored to be joined here today by leaders from our community, and I thank you all so much for joining us. Sheriff Kilgore and his team, Chief Lane from the Norton City Police Department, Sandy Brewer and Megan Greer from the Wise County Victim Witness Assistance Program, folks from the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, Mary Beth Atkins from Family Crisis Support Services, and many others here. Thank you for joining us. And I also want to say thank you to everybody joining us online on Facebook Live. Thanks. And thanks for watching in. Despite the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, we are gathering here together today as a reminder that even in difficult and challenging times, we must unite together and work to provide the type of help and support needed by victims of this type of crime. So thank you for being a part of it today. The national statistics tell us that an average of 24 people per minute are victims of intimate partner violence in the United States. It's 24 per minute. That equals around 12 million people over the course of a year in the United States. 1 in 10 high school students has experienced some form of physical violence at the hands of a boyfriend or girlfriend. On average, 1 in 3 women, 1 in 3 men in the U.S. have experienced or will experience rape, physical violence, or stalking during their lifetime. Nearly 1 in 3 college women have been in an abusive dating relationship during college. Shockingly, domestic violence issues lead to nearly 8 million lost paid days off from work every single year. That's the equivalent of 32,000 full-time jobs in America that are lost to domestic violence. Children, most tragically, get to see these events firsthand. Nearly 1 out of every 4 domestic violence incidents, a child is a witness. I'm telling you right now, these numbers are unacceptable. They're sad and disturbing. But the truth is that domestic violence is ugly and wrong. It's especially disturbing when the person or the persons that are supposed to give you love return your love with violence and hate. And nobody likes to talk about it. Nobody wants to talk about it. Unfortunately, in our region, we are no strangers to these issues, these horrible situations, and these tragedies. I'll share some statistics with you. It's difficult to compile all these statistics, but from what we know, my office at the Commonwealth Attorney's Office has prosecuted about 600 domestic crimes since January of 2020. Almost 200 of these cases involve the crime of spousal abuse. In the last year, Victim Witness and Wise has served over 1,100 individuals. We've seen an increase in the number of domestic violence calls that our law enforcement officers go out on a daily basis since the COVID-19 pandemic began and since the stay-at-home orders were instituted. The City of Norton told me yesterday that they've seen an increase from about 100 calls last year to nearly as many thus far this year, and 2020 isn't over yet. The Sheriff's Department told me yesterday that over 1,350 protective orders have been served since January of 2020. Of the warrants that they processed, over 100 were domestic violence charges. Over 50 involved domestic abduction, strangulation, or malicious wounding. That's family members committing violent crimes against family members. But thankfully, people are here to help. Family Crisis told me yesterday that they've received 584 hotline calls for help, 99 calls for shelter, and over 400 individuals throughout their service area asking for domestic and sexual assault services. Yet these numbers are not just statistics. They're not numbers on a page. They're not cases that we process or a case number. These numbers represent real people in this community. They are your neighbors. They're your friends, your co-workers. They're the people you go to church with. They're your own family members. They have real scars. Oftentimes, those scars are hidden from plain view. They're concealed because they don't want to talk about it. That's private business. But I'm telling you right now, it's not private business. They are survivors, and we need to support them. We stand here today because domestic violence is unacceptable. We offer hope for victims. We offer healing for those impacted by this crime. And we promise to diligently work daily to hold offenders accountable. Now, the more we stay involved and informed, and that's what this is all about, is raising awareness and information. The more we stay informed, the more prepared we are as a community to not only recognize, but to stop abuse when it happens. And that's why I'm so proud of the work that's been done by our teams this week. And I especially want to say thank you to Sandy, Megan, Josh, and Jessica, and others at our office for building these silhouettes. We had help from the folks who work here for the county as well, who helped cut them out and paint. So thank you all. You know who you are for the hard work putting these together. These lifelike silhouettes were designed and coordinated by the Victim Witness Office to represent victims of this crime. You'll notice there are women, there are men, there are children, they're your neighbors. Today, we will place these silhouettes here on the front lawn of the courthouse to be displayed for the rest of this month so that we can hopefully raise awareness. Hopefully we can inspire all of us, and that we can all be better informed, so that we can all be more committed to doing more to stop domestic violence today and in the future. Thank you so much for being here again. Now at this point, I'm going to turn the podium over, and we're going to hear from some other speakers. I'm going to put my mask back on. And first of all, I'll recognize Sheriff Grant Kilgore and ask him to come to the podium and say a few words. So Sheriff Kilgore, thank you for what you do.
Good morning. Sheriff Grant Kilgore here. Glad to be here with you today to recognize Domestic Violence Awareness Month. One of our highest percentage of calls with the Sheriff's Office is domestic violence related calls. We are very proactive. We have a lot of resources in place. Thanks to a lot of the people around here, Mary Beth with Family Crisis, Sandy and Chuck's office, there are ways out of abusive relationships. And I encourage you, if you are in an abusive relationship, to look at those resources and find out what you're offering. Because to make it happen, you have to take that first step, reach out, whether it's law enforcement, victim services, family crisis, and make a difference in your life and your children's life if you have children involved. Don't stay in those relationships and be harmed or even potentially killed somewhere down the line as those abuses grow. And just get yourself out of those dangerous situations.
Thank you, Sheriff. I'd like to recognize Chief James Lane from the Norton City Police Department to say a few words. Chief, thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Chuck, and thanks for including us with this awareness of domestic violence. And I really would just echo what's already been said is, there is so many resources now available that if indeed you are going through a situation of domestic violence, they are those resources that you can reach out to your local, not only law enforcement, but some of the ones that's been mentioned, and there's others. And I encourage you to do that. And as Sheriff Kilgore said, I know that first step is really, no doubt, the very hardest to take, but it's like probably everything we do is once you take that first step, I think that is what leads to hopefully a successful outcome of your situation. And I think that's what's so important, to know that if anything I could echo today or say today is you are truly not alone. And that would be the one thing I would just want to push out, is our victims are not alone. I know the men and women that's standing here with me today feel the same, and there's many more. So thank you.
Okay. All right, I'd like to recognize Mary Beth Atkins with Family Crisis Support Services. Maybe say a couple words.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. My name is Mary Beth Atkins, and I'm the Executive Director of Family Crisis Support Services. We have been offering domestic violence, sexual assault services for the last 38 years here in the 5-county radius. We offer advocacy services, court accompaniment, hospital accompaniment, support groups, and we also do an education program in the schools, and we actually have an after-school program just to have discussions on healthy relationships so we can start early on. If it wasn't for the support of everybody standing here, working together, we are what give victims hope and a chance at healing. We offer 24-hour services, and if you need to reach us, you can call our hotline, which is on our Facebook page, Family Crisis Support Services. And thank you.
Before we conclude, I think it's important to take a moment to recognize the victims of domestic violence that suffer every day, sometimes and oftentimes silently alone. They're afraid to leave. Like these silhouettes say, they're victims who experience trauma. And for those individuals, we want to take, before we close, just a moment to say a word of prayer or have a moment of silence. So if you'll join with me for just a moment, and let's do that. Thank you. Now, a little bit later on today, these silhouettes will be moved to their, I want to say permanent, but almost permanent location for the rest of the month. And so I encourage you, if you know someone who is hurting, someone who needs a word of encouragement, to show them these silhouettes. Drive by and tell them, look, the good people of Wise County have worked really hard to make sure that we raise awareness and give a voice to you. And this is not just a one-month thing, this is every day of the year for these folks. So we want to work harder every single day to continue that commitment. Thanks again for joining us and for being here with us today. God bless you. Thank you very much.